Hello, this is Jordan, and in this video slash audio commentary, I am going to discuss why Africa, and specifically some countries within Africa, are quality mining jurisdictions that should not be overlooked. This audio slash video commentary is being recorded on the evening of Monday, November 9th, 2020. Thank you for joining me, and if you're seeing this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Okay, so the 5 reasons I have here are, you can see they're on the screen if you're watching the video. First off, valuations. Now, in looking at companies in Africa, and specifically juniors, so we're looking at explorers, developers, not the large producers, but the valuations for juniors tend to be better than other jurisdictions. In a lot of the companies I research, I'm seeing this. And perhaps there's a built-in perception that Africa is riskier than most other jurisdictions. And as always, you really have to dive in and figure out what's going on in the particular jurisdiction, what's going on within that area of the country, and decide for yourself. But basically, for the most part, valuations for juniors in Africa tend to be really good. And what that means when you can find a lot of value is that a lot of the risk is priced out of the stock in that scenario. Okay, number 2 is costs. Quite simply, in most countries in Africa, they're just cheaper to work in. Drilling costs are not as expensive. Labor is cheaper. So this keeps costs down. Especially for your mines. If you're building a mine, labor is a huge part of the cost. Cost of labor in most of these countries. It's a lot cheaper than if you're working somewhere else. Number 3 is quality projects. Because there is a built-in perception of more risk in Africa, you don't see a lot of like garbage projects or moose pasture type of projects. So when companies are working in Africa, they really, you can't get away with having a mediocre project. If you're in a good jurisdiction like Canada, Ontario, Quebec, Nevada, Mexico, one of those types of places, there's a lot of low quality projects there in those places. But you can't get away with that in most places in Africa, in my opinion. So just from the things I'm looking at, I noticed that the projects just tend to be better. There's more quality. Or actually, what I should say is there's just less garbage. There's less lower grade moose pasture type stuff, at least from the countries that I look at. Number 4. Now, this is different compared to like 10 or 20 years ago, but there are established industries in these countries around the mining industry itself. So, if you think about it, when you're in a new country and you want to build a mine there, you want to start exploring, a lot of the equipment that you need and manpower, it has to be brought in because there isn't anything established in that country or that jurisdiction. Well, we're at the point now, and this probably wasn't true 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that these are established jurisdictions, and therefore the industries that supply and support mining, those are established. So you can get, the labor is there, you have qualified labor, materials, things like that, getting the drilling equipment and so on and so forth. All that stuff is really easy to get because, again, you have established industries in these countries. So the last thing is M&A, mergers and acquisition. If you look at Africa, there's a lot of majors and mid-tiers in these countries in Africa. And, a lot of those are ASX listed companies, Australian companies. Not all of them, but there's a fair amount. And so if you think a particular country is unsafe or not a good or jurisdiction or a risky jurisdiction, you have to research and see if there's major companies operating there. A lot of these countries in Africa, there's major miners and mid-tiers operating there. What does that tell you? If these were really risky places, these big companies would not be operating there. Now, in addition to that, just a couple more things. One thing about Africa is what I was learning. I was talking to a company a couple weeks ago. Is if a lot of the construction projects there, these mines, if you look at the last 10 or so, a fair amount of them have been built on time, ahead of schedule, and also under budget. One reason for that is also the topography of a lot of these jurisdictions. It's relatively flat. You don't have a lot of mountains that make it more difficult to build mines. So that helps a lot. I mean, there's just a lot of opportunities for near surface mining and exploration. Like as far as near surface discoveries, if you're looking at open pit type of projects, you're going to find a lot of those in Africa relative to other jurisdictions. And I mean, look, if there's, and also in these places, if there's no like obvious, major issue, like political problems, which you do in some of these countries for sure. But if you don't have that in some of these countries, it's easier to get work done. I mean, the permits can come faster. You can drill holes quickly. So that keep that stuff in mind. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. I mean, I've been doing more research on companies in Africa, and I mean, I've always looked at Africa, but it's interesting. There's a lot of positives there, and I think, if you're not an expert investor in this sector, I think, you always hear or you're told about, just focus on the safe jurisdictions. Well, I mean, you can find great opportunities in good jurisdictions. Maybe they're not the safest, but if you're looking at good jurisdictions where majors are operating in, that, look, they're safe enough if majors are operating there, and there's lots of mines that are being built in those places. So I would just, if you're only focused on good and safe jurisdictions, you're probably not looking at Africa. Look at Africa. And again, if you're worried about, risk or safety, a lot of these companies, they're trading at good valuations because the market has already assessed some risk there for being in Africa versus being somewhere else. So I know all that was a mouthful, but that's basically what I wanted to get across today. I'm just excited about the things that are happening in Africa, and don't skip over it. There's a lot of good gold mining jurisdictions within Africa. It's a good place for exploration and development and building mines. That's all for this commentary. Hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing another one for you over the days and weeks ahead.